Livengood this morning. It's Wednesday, heading into a holiday weekend with Michael Patrick Shiels. On the other end of our AT&T line this morning, Chad Livengood from the Detroit News. Nice enough to get up early with us 1 week before we will see him on Mackinac Island for the Detroit Regional Chamber Policy Conference. Welcome back.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
What do you make of this poll now? Epic MRA says that Governor Rick Snyder in his reelect is dead even with would-be Democratic challenger Mark Schauer. Does that mean anything?
Well, it means that Mark Schauer is probably going to be a candidate for governor pretty quickly. As we've already sort of realized as he's been kind of slowly rolling out a campaign. It also means the governor is probably going to have to start getting the troops together and start raising some big bucks for this. There have been other polls that suggest that Mark Schauer could be competitive. The Democratic Governors Association was peddling one a few weeks ago that they were trying to use as a way to means to nudge Mark Schauer into the race. So it's just more signs that Democrats think that this governor is vulnerable, and on a couple of big issues, namely being the pension tax and probably some of the labor strife that's been going on in the last 2 years.
Let me ask you a question. If the poll said Rick Snyder, click here, Democrat, click here, would the result have been the same?
Well, other polls have shown that basically Rick Snyder versus a generic Democrat, that it's within the margin of error that he's kind of polling against. So they don't even really know who Mark Schauer is. And in fact, an Epic MRA poll last month showed that I believe 75% of those polled didn't know who Mark Schauer was. I mean, he's not a really known quantity. I mean, even in his own congressional district. I mean, the guy won one term in Congress, and he won some Senate races and some state house races in Calhoun County. In other, real political Democratic circles, people know who he is, but the general public still doesn't know who he is. But they do know who Rick Snyder is, and if they're not really happy with Rick Snyder, then they're going to start looking at other people probably.
Isn't the governor's reelect campaign essentially Michigan is the comeback state, and you don't change horses in midstream, as Ronald Reagan said?
That will be the campaign, I would imagine. Yes, and it also will focus on on all the positive things that have happened. With the unemployment rate is going down, tax revenue is going back up, the economy is coming back, roaring back, better clip than other states. I mean, that will be his sales pitch, and people will they'll have to look at their pocketbook, and it will be a pocketbook election, no doubt. He will still have the advantage, no doubt about that. But you also got the other factor, the Democratic turnout in the U.S. Senate race, that will also play into the favor of the Democrats.
Glad you mentioned that, because the poll shows that if Gary Peters, the congressman who will be the Democrat nominee for United States Senate, were to run against Mike Rogers, who may or may not be, Peters would have himself a 7-point lead.
Right. Yeah, and that's if Mike Rogers from Brighton runs. And
conventional wisdom is that he will not, right?
Yeah, he'd have to give up his hugely lucrative House Intelligence Chairman seat. He's been on TV every week for like the last 2 months over things with Benghazi and the Boston Marathon bombings. I mean, he's got a really prominent job. And now his name is being tossed around as the next director of the FBI. If you had to choose between being appointed director of FBI and you could do that job for the next 12 years, or would you like to spend the rest of your next 18 months running a brutal and uphill long shot campaign for U.S. Senate? Most of us would probably go for the cushy job at the FBI building.
Yeah, plus his wife works in Washington when she's not overseas. I mean, their family matters and that kind of thing. And I don't know. Would you rather be at a bowling alley in Alpena or, get a good table at the Palm when you want in Washington, D.C.?
Right.
Maybe they're not wired like that. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah,
So,
a separate poll that came out yesterday from Murray Communications, they just polled possible Republican candidates, and Mike Rogers polled the best at 35.6%. But Terry Lynn Land, the former Secretary of State, she polled at 28.8%. And then from there, it's almost second tier. Justin Mosh is polling at 10.2, and Kurt Dykstra, the mayor of Holland, who just out of nowhere during the Tulip Festival indicated that he was interested in running for the Senate. He's polling at 9.9%. And after that, it's under 6%. Roger Kahn, Pete Lund, Rob Steele, Jim Murray, the president of AT&T, he polled at 1.2%. 14 people in that poll said they would vote for Jim Murray. And yesterday, Jim Murray took his name out of the running. So this sort of musical chairs Republican field continues to change.
Thank you for the update, being up so early, too. We'll see you on the island, and if we don't talk before, we'll certainly read you in the Detroit News. Chad Livengood at 26 after the hour. It's Michael Patrick Shiels.